here is the best way that I have found to organize my folders as an art director. So let's create a folder. This is the first step in having the cleanest, most precise, amazing setup ever. All right, so we'll make a new folder and we'll just call this advertising. We'll call it art directors special folder. We have our art directors special folder. Now what are we gonna do with that? We are gonna bring it over here on the sidebar. It's easy as dragging, dropping, and here we go. Now, let's make sure that we can navigate this correctly. I like to have the column view. That's the best view for Finder by far. We have art director special folder, and now we need to separate all of our accounts into this first folder, okay? The first thing we're gonna do, create a new folder. And what we do here is we type in the first brand we work on the most, the first account we work on the most. For me, it's gonna be Mrs. Pibb. Why not? Then after that, click away. And we are gonna make the second most used account, and that'll be number 2. Let's do Finance Co. and so on and so forth. So we have Mrs. Pibb, Finance Co., and Relaxing Drink here. Let's go into Mrs. Pibb. Now, the most important part of our job is making sure we have all of our assets at the time we need them, okay? So what we're gonna do is make our most important folder be at the top, which is our asset folder. And you may ask, what lives here? Well, assets, of course. And what type of assets? Well, logos. Each brand has a bunch of logos. They have different ways they have their logos. What else do they have? They have lifestyle photography. They have style guides, of course, and so on and so forth. You get the point. Whatever assets you need in this folder, you can make it. Put it in list of importance, because this is the next trick I'm gonna show you. Keyboard shortcuts are your best friend. They're gonna make your job so much easier. Use your arrow keys to go back and forth, okay? Up arrow key, down arrow key, right, left. That'll help you navigate so much faster. Okay, so we have our assets in this second tier right here. And what else is gonna live here? Our other projects that we're working on. So let's say we work on social media. What else do we work on? We work on out of home, just like generic campaign. Let's do 2024 campaign. Let's also say that we've been working on our 2023 campaign. And we're like, okay, we're done with this 2023 campaign. We don't need it anymore. We're also gonna have a Z_old. And that's always gonna live at the bottom. And we don't delete old files because you never know when we're gonna use them. That's why we buy hard drives, we buy cloud storage. We're not gonna delete anything because we always keep things. Okay, so we're just gonna drag and drop this into the Z old. So that way we have it, but it's not cluttering up this hierarchy folder system that we have going on. All right, so let's move on to social. Now, the way we do social on this Mrs. Pibb account is by quarter. But let's say that we have multiple years. So this is we're getting into 2024. So we have our 2023 and our 2024. All right, so we're gonna split this up into quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't make each new quarter until I'm actually there. So that way I know where I'm at in the year and I don't get confused. So the most recent quarter is the one at the top, all right? Okay, so we have our quarter 1, then we split it up into different deliverables. In this case, it would be Instagram, TikTok. So you'll see me going back and forth. So when you have a folder highlighted in blue and you do Command-Shift-N, underneath that folder is where we'll make a new folder, okay? So just keep that in mind. Command-Delete gets rid of the folder. So we're in Q1, we have Instagram and TikTok. Now here's where the actual magic happens. This is just all preamble, and this is where the money-making system comes together. And that's where we have assets, just like we had before, exports, and saves. Each and every folder needs to have these at the very end. We're gonna split up our assets in a very special way. In photos, stock, and then inspo. So that way we know where everything lives. That goes in photos. Let's get into saves. So here we get into naming our files. So let's say we're in a Photoshop document, okay? And we are doing Instagram for Q1 for Mrs. Pibb. So we're gonna do Mrs. Pibb, IG, Q1. And then right here is the moneymaker, RA1.PSD. So why RA1? Well, R equals revision, and it also signals that this is the end of the name of your file, okay? So R equals a revision, A equals big change, and 1 equals small change. Let's say I get feedback on this. Mrs. Pibb, Instagram, Q1, whatever it's called, right? I get feedback from my CD and he's just like, hey, I want you to change this font, blah, 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 very minor changes. What we do is a small change. That's a tiny change. So then it goes to RA2. So then now our Photoshop document, we're gonna do Command Shift Save, Command Shift S to save as, and we're gonna version up, all right? And then we're gonna call it RA2 when we make those changes, right? And then let's say we have an account review and they're just like, this isn't gonna work, go back to the drawing board and change some bigger things. We're like, okay. So we're still gonna maintain this naming structure, but now since it's a bigger change, you can go B and back to 1. So then it's gonna be this whole thing. And that is gonna be the way the file is named. Mrs. Pibb or whatever, Instagram, Q1, RB1. Now this will save you from having to do the final V2, final. We have our Photoshop documents taken care of. We have our Illustrator. We're gonna do this with every single change, every revision. Whenever you go back and open your Photoshop document, you're changing that last number. No matter what, you're changing it. There's been so many times that I've gone back and I've been saved by this. Going back to your revisions helps you save so much time because you already have it there. You don't have to revert anything back. You can drag and drop into your new file. It's all dandy. So how does this translate to our exports? We covered our saves, but our exports. Okay, whenever we make a change in export, that's how it's gonna live here. So RA1 is our first revision, no change, first round, rough draft, everything. Come back, get some feedback from our creative director, change the font, RA2. We're gonna resave those, put them onto our keynote, what have you. We have our account review, all right? That is gonna be an RB1, because now we're going back to the drawing board, making some bigger changes, having to reworkshop some things, RB1. And then finally, we have our client review, RC1. And we want these to correspond with our Photoshop saves. So that way, whenever we look back and we're like, oh, we saved something and we changed that font, we know which version of the Photoshop file we saved our font in, and that way we don't have to be going back and forth and looking for everything. It's a lot faster to load images that you've exported rather than Photoshop documents that can be gigabytes large if you're not careful, you know? This is kind of the structure of things. And let's go through it one more time. Let's say we have out of home. So we're gonna do Q1 out of home, and there's probably not gonna be any way else that we're gonna split it up. We don't have to go any smaller than this. So then we're gonna put our assets, exports, saves. It's gonna live there. And exports, RA1, whoops. So now here's some other little tips, some tidbits you can do. So let's say that I'm all these folders deep and I'm pretty lost in the sauce. Well, let me show you a way to navigate this hierarchy a little bit easier when you're going back and forth and this window isn't quite so big. So what you're gonna do is right click on this overhead bar here, click Customize Toolbar. All right, so we're down here in Customize Toolbar, and here you can drag and drop things that are very useful to you. So this airdrop, for example, you just bring it up here. And now rather than having to right click and get to the share sheet like this, rather than having to go share over here, etc., you can just literally click this and airdrop things to your phone, whatever. But I'm getting sidetracked. We're up here, Customize Toolbar. One of my favorites is this right here. Drag it up and it looks like this. And it is the path. So something that's really useful is rather than having to go all the way left and right in these folders, is you can just see very quickly where you're at and kind of go back to the year, to the quarter, to the social media platform, but you can navigate it quite a bit quicker that way. Something else that's useful are tags. So I like to tag whatever brand I'm working on with a corresponding color. So let's say Mrs. Pibb is probably red, Finance Co. green for money, and Relaxing Drink probably yellow. So there we can quickly see, rather than having to read the names, we can see colors, and it's a lot quicker for our brains to just process what information is going on the screen. Now we can be all the way deep, and we can see on our left-hand side that this one's selected. And same with social. It's just like, let's say social's red, out of home is green, campaign is blue. You can kind of see and highlight projects that you're working on to get there quicker. Like for example, in my job, we're working on some college football stuff and social stuff, and those are the ones that I have highlighted so that I know quickly how to navigate back to those and kind of see what's going on. Here's my last tidbit. Has a little bit less to do with files and more to do with just overall images and art director, things like that. So let's say we have our asset, we have our inspo or photos, we have our Mr. Pibb JPEG, but we don't want it to be a JPEG necessarily. Okay, quick actions, convert image. Here we are. We can change it from a PNG to a JPEG, an HEIF to a JPEG. And this I use the most when I'm airdropping something from my phone to my computer and I don't really want to use HEIF. This is a lifesaver. So you have JPEG, you just click JPEG, convert to JPEG, game over. Okay, that is it from me today. This is kind of a boring topic, but honestly, it really gets me going. Thank you for watching this video. Much appreciated. Be sure and give it a like. Subscribe if you want to. I make random videos. I'm trying to figure out what this channel should be. Comment if this is helpful for you. And comment if this wasn't helpful and you have a much better way to organize your folders and everything, because I could definitely use the help. Anyways, that's enough for me. Thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.